Hello, students. Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Is it clear? The voice is clear. The voice is clear. Screen is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, very good. Okay, so today we'll be going for the fourth lecture on the unit number two. So we will be revising this unit number two. So okay, so we will start with from the beginning. It will be a revision of unit number two. So let us start one by one. So we have already defined embedded systems for IoT. A system is an arrangement in which all its units assemble work together according to the set of rules. The embedded actually means something that is attached to the another thing. Embedded system can be thought of as a computer hardware system with software embedded in it. An Internet of Things is an in network of physical objects or person or idea called as things that are embedded with software, electronics, network, and sensors that allow these objects to collect and exchange the data. So overall, the embedded system for IT, we have seen all the three words, all the four words, in fact, about how embedded systems and IT are connected with each other. Then this importance of this chapter is embedded system will be at a cornerstone for deployment of many IoT solutions. Major players in embedded systems are bringing the transformation into their products by taking the advantage of the growing market. And the embedded systems in IoT applications include networking hardware to home automation. So this is the importance of the chapter. Then comes what is an embedded system. So we have seen an embedded system can be independent system or it could be a part of a larger system. So we can see that there are a lot of embedded systems that have been on a large, and there are small embedded systems which can be the part of the large embedded systems. Embedded system is a microcontroller or a microprocessor system which is designed to perform a specific task. So we can design the embedded systems for a specific defined task. For example, a fire alarm is an embedded system as when it gives alarm when the it detects a smoke. So that could be an embedded systems. Then the characteristics of embedded systems. The first one is a single functioned embedded system. An embedded system usually performs a specialized operation and does the same repeatedly. For example, pager always function as a pager, that is a single function, यानी कि जो सिंगल फंक्शन है वो एक काम रिपीटेडली करता जाता है. फॉर एग्जांपल आपका पेजर जो कि फंक्शन करता है उसका पेजर का. Then tightly constrained, all the embedded systems have constraints on design matrix. All the embedded systems have constraints on design matrix, and these design matrix is actually a measure of implementation of features such as its cost, size, power, and performance. It must be of a size to fit in a single chip and must perform fast enough to process the data in real time and consumes minimum power to extend the battery. So this is what the tightly constrained is about. Then the reactive and real time. So many embedded systems must really usually react to the changes that is happening in the environment and must compute certain results in real time without any delay. There is also an reactive and real time characteristics. Example, you can see that there is a car cruise controller which continuously monitors and reacts to the speed and the brake sensors. So the controller always reacts to the speed and brake sensors, means it is reacting to the sensors information. So it must compute acceleration repeatedly within limited time, as a delay computation can result in failure to control the car. So if there is a delay in giving the responses, the sensors, if finds an delay in the responses, then you can see that there could be a failure to the control of the car. Henceforth, the reactive and real time is also very good characteristics of embedded systems in order to give an responsive reaction. Then microprocessor based or microcontroller based embedded systems can be also there. Then memory, characteristics of the embedded system. Then next is a memory. It must have a memory in its software, which is usually stored on a ROM and does not need any secondary memory. Then connected, it must have connected peripherals to connect input and output devices. Hardware and software systems. Software is used to for more features and flexibility, and hardware is used for performance and security. So you know that any system is having two parts. The first one is a software and the next one is a hardware. So whenever you're using a software, that means it is related with the features and flexibility that is being provided. And when hardware is used, it mainly determines the performance and security. Then comes the basic structure of the embedded systems. So we can see that there is a sensor, analog to digital converter, a processor, and ASIC. ASIC is an application specific integrated circuit. Then DAC, actuator, and memory. So in this case, what happens is that the sensor gives the information to the ADC, as the output of the sensor is in analogous in nature. Henceforth, we need an analog to digital converter, which will be converted into digital form, which is given to the processor. Then the output of the sensor as well as output of the analog to digital converter. That means analog as well as digital output both are given to the memory, and the memory is been interfaced with the processor and ASIC in bidirectional way. So the processor processes the data according to the information which is stored in the memory, which could be analogous or digital, and then it is converted into analog through digital and analog converter. Now, when it is given to the actuator, actuator does have some kind of reference values stored into it, which it starts comparing and gives output according to it. So we can see that this is the basic structure of embedded system. So the sensors can be increased from one to many, and these sensors will be fed to the analog to digital converter, so we can get the digital output. There is a two-way communication between memory and processor, or ASIC, that is application specific integrated circuit. Now the types of embedded systems. So again here two types of embedded systems. It can be divided into two ways. The first one is based on the the requirements, the functional requirements and performance, whereas the second one is based on performance of the microcontroller. So based on the functionality, actually it is having a runtime, standalone, network, and mobile type of embedded systems. Whereas based on microprocessor or microcontroller, we have small scale, medium scale, and sophisticated scale embedded system. Now we'll start with the performance and functionality based embedded systems, in which the first one is a standalone embedded systems. This type of embedded systems, as the name suggests, does not require a host system like computer or processor, as it can work itself and displays data on the connected devices or make necessary changes on the devices. So it does not require the host system. This is the most important line of a standalone. It will work itself and then display the result and make necessary changes in the devices. Second one is a real-time embedded system. When an output is required at a particular time, a real-time embedded system can be used. So it is a time-specific kind of embedded system. When a task has to be completed on time and when there is a deadline for any project, this system comes as a savior on time. That means whenever you're requiring a time stipulated task, at that time this real-time embedded system will come into the picture. The third one is a network embedded system. So when a program is running inside another device, a network is formed, and this is called as a network embedded system, where running program is controlled by a microprocessor or a microcontroller. So a device inside the another device, and that device is running a program, and accordingly the changes will happen. Then the mobile embedded systems. All the devices that are portable and working with embedded systems is called as mobile embedded systems. Though there is a limitations of memory and functionality, its portability and handy systems are useful for the people. That means wherever you want to go for a handy things, that is on battery operated things, they are called as a mobile embedded system. Then comes types of embedded systems based on microcontroller or microprocessor. First is a small scale embedded system. It is 8 or 16-bit microcontrollers are used to design this and work with the help of a batter in the system. Several programming tools are used to develop small scale embedded systems. The hardware is very small and processor is slow. The memory is also less. The codes for developing these embedded systems can be written with the help of IDE. So we can imagine that there is a small scale embedded system which is having 8 or 16-bit microcontrollers. Then it is a small scale, hence we can say that the hardware is small as well as the speed of the processor is slow. The memory is also less. So this small scale embedded systems could be like a very small scale embedded system which is a microcontroller based operating a motor. You're switching on off motor. That could be the example of a small scale embedded system. But even though even if it is a small scale, it has to be written in with the help of it can be written with the help of an any IDE. Then second is the medium scale embedded system. So in medium scale embedded systems, we can see that it's a 16-bit or 32-bit microcontrollers can be used to develop this system. Then the processors that can be used are DSP or RISCs. Then the hardware and software functionalities are complex, and several coding languages can be used as a programming tool. Then a medium scale embedded systems also requires IDE for the program, and we can use medium scale systems in high-end applications with large memory and processing data. So clear cut is that in small scale 8 to 16, 8 or 16 type bit microcontroller can be used. In medium scale you can use 16 bit or 32 bit microcontroller. So as the bit increases, you can say that the processor could be also increased there. A microprocessor or microcontroller can be used. In this case it could be DSP processor or RISC architecture. Then the third one is the sophisticated embedded systems. The more complex embedded system with all the difficult complexities of hardware and software that makes system useful for all is called as sophisticated embedded systems. These systems requires registers of huge memory, scalable processors, and IPs so that system can work well in the environment. So the big difference is that it is having a complex hardware and software. As far as the memory is required, it is requiring a huge memory. The scalable processor is there, so which is the difference between last two and this one is they are having the scalable processors and IP so that system can work well in the environment. They are used in systems with graphical screens, touchpads, and cutting-edge options with where software and hardware are equally needed for the performance. So, in addition to the processors used, most complex hardware and software used, there can be also with the graphical scheme, touchpads, and software and hardware which are equally needed for the performance. Then, after finishing the types of embedded systems, we can move to the role of embedded systems in IoT. So, the role of embedded system is a very important because we have been studying the the embedded systems can play a very crucial role in case of IoT. So the embedded systems are low power consumption units that are used to run specific tasks. For example, remote control washing machine, micro ovens, RFID tags, sensors, thermostats, and used in various applications. So we could see that the embedded systems consumes low power and it could be useful to run the specific tasks such as specific task. Uh, Okay, so role of embedded system in IoT is that it could be the embedded systems are low power consumption units that could be useful for running a specific task. So we can design embedded systems for in IoT like using, for example, remote control washing machines, micro ovens, RFID tags, sensors, and in various applications. Then second one is a networking hardware such as switches, routers, modern mobile phones, PDAs, that is a personal digital assistants, etc. Usually, embedded devices are the part of a larger devices where they perform a specific task for the device. So I have already explained that embedded systems could be a small embedded systems or it could be a part of a larger embedded system. In home automation, embedded systems can be used as wired or wireless networking to automate and control light, security, audio, visuals, then sense climate change, monitoring, etc. The area that are going to transform are RTOS, microprocessor, microcontrollers, followed by the memory footprints, networking, open source communication, and developers. So when you design an embedded systems for IoT or when you're going to use embedded systems in IoTs, there are some specific requirements that has to be satisfied. And if these are to be satisfied, then we have to see that whether how much embedded systems will be used in IoT or could be useful in the IoTs. So there are some specific requirements. Like first is that should perform specific tasks, should perform some specific task, then must have a ROM, RAM, then must read input, real-time computations, must produce output, timely task execution. So these are the requirements that in order to have the role of embedded systems in the IoT. Now, what are the examples of embedded systems? Some of the examples that may be laser printer, digital camera, automotive embedded systems, automatic washing machine, then personal digital assistants, that is PDA, industrial robots, automated tailor machines, calculators. So these are some examples of embedded systems. Now, what are the advantages of the embedded system? Because these advantages will be helpful while designing embedded systems for IoT. It is able to cover a wide varieties of environments, less likely to incur errors. This is the most important. Then embedded systems have a simplified hardware which reduces the overall cost. Then offers an enhanced performance. Then the embedded system is useful for the mass production. The embedded system is highly reliable, so you can rely on it. It has very few interconnections. The embedded system is small in size. It has fast operation, offers improved product quality. It optimizes the use of system resources. It has low power operation. So the last one is also very important because it also comes under the requirement of the embedded system while designing for IoT. So it is a low power operation also. It incurs less error is also by far the most important. And third one, it is highly reliable. You can depend on this. So as it is having some advantages, it also has some disadvantages. The first one is to develop an embedded system needs a very high development effort. Means you have to really put a very hard work behind developing the embedded systems. So this is the drawback that you have to put a lot of effort. You have to go for high development efforts. Then it needs a long time to the market. Then embedded systems do a very specific task, so it can't be programmed to different things. Yes, it is also a very important disadvantages, because what happens is that when you design the embedded system for a particular task, then you can make some changes or modifications in that program only which is designed for the specific task. Other, if you want to design for the other applications or any other different task, then you have to design it from the scratch. So at a time only one embedded systems can work out for a particular specific task only. The other, for that other you can design, but that could be also again a specific task only. So according to this, embedded systems do a very specific task. It cannot be used for reprogramming to carry out the other task. Then again you have to go for the different embedded systems. So this is the limitations to it. Then embedded system offers a very limited resource for memory. So there is some kind of memory less. That is a disadvantage. It does not offer any technological improvement. जैसे मैंने कहा कि वो एक specific task के लिए कर सकता है. It is difficult to get the backup of the embedded files. Now, these are some of the applications of embedded systems. The first one is robotic science. So, in robotic science, like ground vehicles, drones, underwater vehicles, industrial robots can be designed. The medical also embedded systems can be used, like dialysis machine, infusion pumps, cardiac monitor, etc. For automotive, engine control, ignition system, brake systems, ignition systems. Then for network, router, hub, gateways, home devices like TV, digital alarm, air conditioner, DVD videos, players, cameras, etc. For automobiles, that is fuel injection, lightning system, door locks, airbags, windows, and PAS, that is parking assistant system. Now we'll go to the different components of embedded systems. So basically there are two components. One is the application software and the next one is the platform. So one is application software, the next one is a platform. Under platform you will be having again hardware and software. Under platform you will be having again hardware and software. So again I'm saying that you can write down as a three components also. You can also write it out as a two components also. So when you have three components, when you're writing three components of the embedded system, you can write hardware, software, and real-time operating system. When you're writing two components of embedded system, then there are two components are the application software and the second one is the platform. And under platform there will be again hardware and software. So anyhow you can write down in any ways. If the question comes in the exam that what are the various platforms of the embedded systems, then you have to write down the information of hardware and software. The hardware may be sensors, ADCs, processors, or it may be ASIC, DAC, actuators, and the software may be a bootloader, operating system, or the system program. Now we'll see one by one what are the hardware components of embedded systems. So the by far the most important is the power supply. So usually a 5-volt power supply is required, and the power supply should not go below 1.8. The maximum range should be 1.8 to 3.3. It could be designed for 5, but at least minimum and maximum this should be there, so that your the hardware components, your embedded systems could work out. Then the power supply source can also use battery or a wall adapter. Then second is the processor. It is responsible for deciding the performance of the embedded system. This is the hard core of the embedded system. The processor can be an 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit. The lesser the bit, smaller the application of the embedded system. So more the bits, you can develop more complex applications. Then comes the memory. Data is stored temporarily in RAM. The ROM is useful for storing the program. When the system is switched on, the embedded system can fetch that program from the ROM memory. Then comes timers and counters. So for a specific task which is having a stipulated time or task, or you can put the specific stipulated task or time for the task, or it may be delay. So in both the cases the timers and counters can be used. The programming can be done so that delay can be generated for the embedded system. The delay time span can be decided by using crystal oscillator and a system frequency, so that delay can be generated as per the requirement. So in order to carry out a specific task for a specific stipulated time, or second, in order to provide a delay, the timers and counters can be used, and the delay time can be increased or decreased depending upon the crystal oscillator and system frequency. Then the next hardware components of the embedded systems is the communication port. The communication port is a type of interface that is used to communicate with the other types of embedded systems. So in the embedded system, there are multiple types of communication ports like UART, USB, Ethernet, RS485, and many more. Now in this case, RS232 is used for smaller distance, and RS484, 485 can be used for longer distance. So depending upon the distance also, you can vary these communication ports. When embedded system is used in a small scale applications, then communication ports can be used from the microcontroller. There are several protocols that can be used for sending data from one system board to the another board. Then the next hardware component is the output and input. This is by far also the most important thing, because according to the input, your output is going to be generated. So the embedded system is used. When the embedded system is used, the input is needed to interact with the system. So the input to the embedded system can be provided by the sensor or by the user itself. The processor used in the embedded system can be also based on input and output. This is also very important line, that input and output is can be decided by can decide which kind of processor are you going to, what the kind of output you need, what is the input you need. So according to based on that, the processor selection can be done. The proper configuration need to be done by using input and output port. In the embedded system, there are fixed input and output ports so that devices can be connected to that specified port only. Example like P01, P02, P00 in that way. Now circuit used in the application, now this is a very specific, like if I am having a particular application, for example, it is a temperature controller. So for that thing you require temperature sensor, and when you're using a temperature sensor, you need to have a specific electronic circuit for that thing. So that circuit is nothing but the circuits that is used in the application. So depending upon your application, you're going to choose the sensor, and depending upon the sensor, you're going to choose the electronic circuit supporting it in the designing part of an embedded systems. Like when all the hardware components are selected, the next task is to select software components for designing an embedded system. So we have up till seen the embedded systems, then we have seen the advantages, disadvantages and applications of embedded systems. We have also seen the types of embedded systems. We have also seen the hardware components of the embedded systems, and now we are moving towards the software components of the embedded system. So first one is an assembler. So as we know that assembler is used when you are writing the program in assembly language. This assembly language program is then converted into the hex code, which can be further processed. After writing the code, the programmer is used for writing the program in the chip. So it is specially designed for the application when you are using assembly language. You remember this one. Second is the emulator software that could be used to execute the function of the host system. All the components can be controlled by the emulator tool. The emulator can be also used to find out the bugs and for debugging the code, and it could also be used to transfer the code from one system, embedded system, to the another embedded system, or from the host system to the target system. So emulator is specially been, I could say that it can be used for finding bugs in your program, and second is transferring the code from this host to the destination PC. So it could be useful for transferring the code from one system to the another system. Then the compiler is used to convert the programming language into some language that would be that the target machine can understand and execute the function. The basic use of the compiler is to convert the high level language into a low level language, and the low level language could be a machine code or the object code or the assembly language code. Now, the next part is the operating system. So, the operating system is also by far the most important because in order to manage the computer hardware, you need some kind of thing that is called as the operating system. So, it's a collection of a software that manages computer hardware resources and provides a common service for the computer programs. It is a vital component of the system. It is an interface between a computer and the computer user and computer hardware. Then it performs all the basic tasks like file management, memory management, process management, handling input and output, controlling peripheral devices. Then some of the popular operating systems are Windows operating systems, then Linux, then OS 400 AIX, and many others. So this is the overall function of operating system. So we see that memory management, processor management, device management, file management, security, control over system performance, job accounting, error detecting aids, and a coordination between other softwares and users. So this is the whole task of operating system. So it is actually it manages the resources. I could say that if you give a punchline or the headline of what operating system does is that it manages and organizes the resources, especially hardware resources. And now we'll see real-time operating system. So once you understand operating system, real-time operating system can be also understood. As you know that real-time operating system is a software component that rapidly switches between the tasks, giving the impression that multiple programs are running. यानी कि ऐसा दिखाता है जैसे बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम्स रन हो रहे हैं, लेकिन वो अक्सर एक ही प्रोग्राम एक टाइम पे करता है. लेकिन वो जो दो प्रोग्राम्स के बीच में या दो एप्लीकेशन के बीच में जो स्विचिंग है, दैट स्विचिंग इज वेरी फास्ट, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दैट एक इल्यूजन तैयार होता है कि it is running lot of tasks, it is running executing multitask, but at the one time it is executing only one task on a single processing core. That is the most important thing. In actual fact, the processing core can only execute one program at one time, and what RTOS does actually is rapidly switching between the tasks, so that it gives an impression that multiple programs are running or executing simultaneously. The RTOS supervises the application software and provide a mechanism to let the processor run a process as per the scheduling by following the plan to control the latencies. Now, let us see that when you understand OS, you are understanding RTOS. Now, which one to use is going to be the next question, and why? If you're choosing any one, then why that has to be? See, the RTOS defines the way the system works. It sets the rule during execution of application program. A small scale embedded system may not have RTOS, so depending upon the application, you can use RTOS. Like in medium scale or in a sophisticated scale, you can use RTOS. In small scale, it doesn't require. And difference is that, and it can differentiate in two ways. The first is that it provides non-deterministic soft real-time response, where there is no guarantee to which task will be completed, but they will try to responsive to the user. उनको जो काम दिया है वो काम करेंगे, लेकिन और दो तीन काम दिए हैं तो उसमें से कौन सा काम होगा इसका कोई अंदाज़ा नहीं लगा सकते. So it's a soft real time response. But real time operating system gives a hard real time response. Means what? It executes the response. It gives a deterministic response to any external event that is been given to it. Now see, operating system is having some scheduling algorithms like Robin, cooperative, round robin, hybrid scheduling. But real time operating system is a priority based scheduling. यानी जो काम उसको प्रायोरिटी पे दिया गया है वो काम वो पहले करेगा and then it will execute the next one. So that is the difference here. So it is a non-deterministic soft real-time response, and there is a deterministic hard real-time response. Here scheduling algorithm is mostly used as hybrid or cooperative scheduling, and in this case the priority scheduling is done. This priority scheduling actually means that it works or executes a task according to the priorities. So whichever thing you are going to give as a priority, it will execute the first. So in that way, in that case, what happens is that if it is given the priority of task number 2, then it will stop task 1 for a while, and after finishing task 2, it will go back to task 1. So in this way, it's a priority based scheduling can be done. Then why use the real-time operating system? So some of the features is that priority-based scheduling. So we have seen that abstract timing information, maintainability, extensibility, modularity, promotes team development, easier testing, code reuse, improved efficiency, ideal processing. So these are some of the features of why to use real-time operating system. Now we'll move towards IDE. This is nothing but integrated development environment, which enables the program to write and complete the program for different aspects in order to consolidate the different aspects. It actually increases the program's productivity by combining some activities by writing software into a single application, that is editing source code, building executables and debugging. Then IDE presents a single program in which all development is done. This program typically provides many features like compiling, deploying, and debugging. Then modern IDEs have code completion. It provides facility to computer programs for software development, and some IDEs contains compiler, interpreter, or both. So it depends on which kind of compiler or interpreter you're using, or it could be used a combination of both. So the ID actually provides the environment for the integrated development environment, so that the programmers can write a complete code of the programs, and it not only edits the source code, builds executable files, but also debugs it. So some of the various IDEs that is for the embedded development available in the market are Eclipse, Kale, Arduino, NetBeans, Komodo, MP Lab, Code Composer, LabVIEW, and Micro C for Pick. So let us understand somewhat about an Eclipse. So I have explained that Eclipse could be an analogous to a car. So we could say that the frame of the car is the Eclipse platform, and all the plugins inside the car is nothing but the resulting products for completing the runtime development environment. So these plugins are essential to the environment. Some of the plugins will be essential, some of the plugins will be not essential. So example, we could say that the engine of the car is an essential plugin. So in this way, in Eclipse also there will be some essential plugins. So we can see that the Eclipse platform is there. It is, and rest are nothing but the plugin tools that you are plugging it. Then understanding Arduino. So Arduino is also an open source electronic platform based on easy to use hardware and software. The IDE runs on Windows, Macintosh, Linux operating system. It is available for the extension of experienced programmers. It's a single board microcontroller. This is important. And Arduino का ऐसा है कि Arduino जो ID है वो Arduino में itself होती है, जैसे Kale एक separate है या Eclipse एक separate है, सेपरेट आईडी है, लेकिन इसमें आर्डिनो के किट के ऊपर ही वो आर्डिनो का आईडी होगा जिसमें आप अपना प्रोग्राम्स कर सकते हैं. And the Arduino software can be also expanded through C, C++ libraries. Then we'll move to microcontroller based embedded systems. So we can see that very simple example is that there are three sensors. So the sensing conditioning will sense the three inputs. It will take the input. It will signal conditioning it. It will be converted from millivolts to volt. It will boost the output voltage. That is an analogous, so it will be given to ADC. So where it is converted into digital. Microcontroller will execute the program for which it has been designed, and then it could be displayed, or whatever design you want to change it, or you want to check through the feedback, then it could be given to the actuator where the reference value will be stored, it will be compared, and if it is doesn't suit, you can re-execute the program. So it's a very simple microcontroller based embedded system. I could also give an example of just a water level indicator. Like suppose there is a tank on your house, water tank. So there is a water sensor which is kept into that. So up till the time when the sensor touches the water in the tank, the motor will be off. As soon as the water level goes down, the motor will be on. So you can choose your reference level up till where when the motor should turn on. So you have to keep that sensor quite till the bottom of the tank. So according to that, it will sense and then it will turn on or off the motor. Then after the microcontroller based embedded system, this is the another one is Linux based embedded system. So now in order to understand this Linux based embedded system, we need to understand how the Linux can be found in embedded systems. It is found in many sizes, from mobile phones, home appliances, etc., or vehicles. And why this Linux can be used for the embedded system is because of its popularity, that is, it's an open source, very strong and committed community. And second, the most important is that it is continuously improved by the users, programmers, and henceforth it is always tested. So it is constantly tested, and henceforth it gives you better results as compared to the other operating systems. Then example of Linux operating system: in-flight entertainment system, Linux-based embedded systems can be used in cafe and bake shops or in the gas station pumps, where the Linux bootloaders can be seen while displaying the result, while displaying the messages. Then comes the Linux-based embedded system components. So there are divided into two sections. The first one is the root file system, and the down is Linux kernel, bootloader, device tree, and hardware. So bootloader actually software executed to power up to set up the hardware to run the operating system. Software executed to power up to set up the hardware. So for powering up, you need to have a bootloader to run the operating system. Then device tree, a tree data structure with nodes that describe the physical devices in the hardware needed by the Linux kernel to initialize properly the device drivers. So this is for initializing. And Linux kernel is a code providing all the services to manage the hardware resources. So kernel your manages the hardware resources. System program is user-friendly utilities to access operating system services. Then application software implementing the functionalities to be delivered to the embedded system user. So obviously the ultimate result is application. And root file system is actually container of the Linux kernel configuration files. The system is actually root file system is the container of the Linux kernel configuration file, the system programs and applications. So this is how the different blocks are explained. So I do feel so these are the assignments. Like in first also I have given some of the assignments. You can do these assignments. Yes, so have you got it? Yes, have you got it, students? Hello. Hello.
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So now we'll take the attendance.